Hey, I hope you guys are doing fine. So in the last video, I showed you how to install SCCM on Windows Server 2019. So in this video, basically I would move our series forward by showing you how to create boundaries, and then also what are the discovery methods that are used to discover the machines. Obviously, SCCM, and the reason why you need the discovery method is that so that there is a mechanism that is in place of finding new objects and bringing them into SCCM database so that they could be managed, and that's how you could deploy certain things like a software, batches, images. So the way to bring all of those devices into the SCCM database is a method. It's called the discovery method. So there are basically 6 types of discovery methods that SCCM has. Those methods, each one is a little bit different and focus on different areas of Active Directory, and there is that's how they basically bring all those objects into it. So I'm just going to quickly go over on each one, and then I'll show you in the console and also show you how you could set them up. So there, the first one is Active Directory Forest Discovery. Second is Active Directory Group Discovery, Active Directory System Discovery, Active Directory User Discovery, and fifth is Network Discovery. And finally, the last one is Heartbeat. I think I spelled that wrong. Sorry, it's a heartbeat. Heart, heartbeat discovery. I apologize on that. Actually, let me fix it so that I don't wind up getting any messages on that. Okay, this is fixed. I will go on each one of that. The only one that I will not cover is the network discovery, because I usually don't even use it. I don't even recommend using it. I'm sure there could be a deep discussion on that one, but this, I feel it is old and it's not really needed anymore, because other things are much better and you have much more control over the devices that way if you bring them into the database. And once I'm done with the discovery methods, then I'll show you guys the boundaries and the boundary groups, how to set them up. If you want to know, I would not go into way too detail about the boundaries and boundary groups, because I have already created one video about it. If you want to know all the details about it, you could click the link up top. That's going to pop up just shortly right there for you. And you could just watch that video. I will just simply configure one boundary and then configure one boundary group. That should be good for this lab to move forward. So let's dive in. I'm gonna open up. I'm gonna log into SCCM server and then launch the SCCM console, and we'll get started on this. So I'm just going to RDP into SCCM 01. Should be just pulling up right there. All right, so first thing what I'll do is I'm just gonna quickly launch and check the health of my system. I mean, I had installed it in front of you in the last video, but I want to make sure everything is kind of running the way it should be, that everything is green, so that you can see too that the system is still healthy. And that's, by the way, if you are an SCCM admin, it's really a good practice that whenever you start your shift or whenever you log into or launch basically the SCCM console, it's a very good practice to always look at it. This way you know exactly where you stand. If there are any kind of problems going on with your system, you could just kind of be more proactive on such kind of things. Because I have seen some SCCM admins, they just wait until somebody calls them. It's better that you let somebody know it looks good on you. Professionally, it's a good thing and good work ethic. So to check the status of the system, just launch your SCCM console, go on the monitoring, basically check on the monitoring, and then go to system status, and then you could click on site status. This would give you the site status and all of the components that are on that site. Everything is green. We are all good. And then it's also good thing to check the components status too. So just click on that one, go through, look at it. If everything is green, if you see any kind of warnings, the best way is, let's say this was, if this component was showing the warning, just right click on it and then show error or warning, and that would, and this is where you could also select the days for how many days that you want to go back. You could also specify the specific time too. So it kind of keeps a good log of whatever error happened historically. So that's one thing. I just wanted to throw it out. So since everything is all good, now what I'll do is I'll just go into the discovery methods. So you would find the discovery methods under administration, and then click on the hierarchy configuration. Click on it, discovery method, and then select discovery methods, and you would see all those 6 discovery methods, the one that I started this video with. By default, there is only one method that is enabled, which is heartbeat discovery method. This is enabled if, and this basically works with the SCCM client directly. So if the client is installed, then obviously is communicating, management point is communicating with that client, and then grabbing all of the data that is set up on the client and then reporting it back so that the SCCM database can be updated. So I'm just going to kind of sort them out from disabled to enabled one. So the bottom is now heartbeat. So very first thing there is Active Directory Forest Discovery. This is basically, if you, let me, actually I'm going to get into the domain controller, which is, in my case, TXDC01. So Forest Discovery basically does goes and searches inside the sites and subnets that are set up on the Active Directory. So in this case, I have still not set up those. So it's going to, if I go and enable it, it will just by default, it will go and search for only the default one. And the way to look at it, where it would be searching, just simply click, log into your domain controller, in which I did TXDC01. Go to Tools, and then go on Active Directory Sites and Services. And this is where your sites are configured, by the way. And I would create one separate video on this one in the future, whenever I will get into detailed Active Directory tutorials. So by default, whenever I created the domain, which was bbtech.com, this is created. So it would basically go and dig right here and start pulling any kind of objects that are under these. Right now you are seeing there is only one because nothing else is really configured. So, and the same thing goes for the subnets too. That's where it goes and it gets it. So now I'm going to go back to SCCM server and basically enable this so that I can start getting the data from here and keep moving with the video. So to enable the status of it, just simply select Active Directory Forest Discovery, right click, go to Properties, and you could just click on Enable, and you could check automatically create Active Directory site boundaries when they are discovered. This is a very separate topic. There are 2 ways to approach this. I don't want to confuse you on this, but whenever I'm going to go back and create another video that would be about the sites and boundaries in detail, there is a video already out there about the boundaries. But for now, all you gotta do is just simply enable Active Directory Forest Discovery, and you could just check these, both of them, for the lab purpose only. So you do need to also do a little bit of the reading when you should automatically create Active Directory site set boundary and when you should not enable it or disable it, depending on the size of the environment and how the network is actually set up. So it's a really broad topic. That's why I don't want to confuse you. But for the lab purpose, you could just go ahead and just check all of them. And then schedule, when should this discovery run? By default, it is 1 week. Just leave it as a default and click apply on it. Yes. And once you click OK, the very first time when you enable it, the system would actually ask you, do you want to run this one now? So, sorry, it didn't for some reason, but I have seen that one. It does ask on that. So just then once it's enabled, right click and go run Forest Discovery now. Do you want to run Forest Discovery as soon as possible? Yes. So now it would go back and it would start grabbing the asset. So the way to check it is just go to Asset and Compliance. And then we could click on Device Collections. And as you could see, there are some devices that have already populated here, which is SCCM01 and SQL01. This SCCM obviously knows about SCCM01. That's where it's installed. And same thing, it also knows about SQL01. But you are not seeing TXDC01 as of now because the discovery is still running on the back end of it. Towards the end, stay tuned. Towards the end of this video, I will show you where those logs are to, where you could go and look for each log of each discovery method and see what it's doing. I'll show you that one towards the end of this video. So that one is done. Next, I'm gonna move back to discovery methods, and I would go to the next. I'm just gonna So forest is done. Heartbeat is good. Network discovery, I already mentioned. We are not gonna worry about it. I'm not gonna do anything about it. I'm gonna leave it disabled. And the next is Active Directory user discovery. This one is basically the very name says it all too. If you go back to domain controller, click on the tools, go back on to Active Directory users and computers, and then I'm just gonna click on the users. So you could target anything under this users here. You could go all the way to a group, just a group. Like let's say I have seen some of the environment where they might have multiple SCCM infrastructure set up. So let's say that if your team is only responsible for a specific group of users, then this is where you would go and target those, whatever those users are. I had created one group, like let's say for the sake of our conversation, SCCM administrator. That was one of the group that you are responsible for, and anything that gets under this, these users only need to be pulled in, and you would just only go target that group, and it's not, SCCM is not going to worry about all of the remaining groups. But for this lab, and since I will be dealing with everything, so I'm gonna make sure that all of my users, any kind of users that are in domain bbtech.com, they are pulled in. So I'll just go back to SCCM server now. Right click, Active Directory user discovery, properties, and this is where that you could target the container is saying, like which container do you want to. So if you click on this is a new icon, is people call it so many different names, sun, wheel, blah blah, whatever. Just simply click on this orange icon, and then click browse, and you could see this is the structure is a kind of very similar to the one that you just saw in the Active Directory. So I will just leave everything on the top level. So just click OK. Just leave it as is, and then also select options to modify the search behavior. Discover objects within Active Directory groups too. So I want to basically get everything. So just simply check that part too. and then recursively search Active Directory child container. So if there are any kind of a child container within that, so if you wanted to discover that too, so just check that one too, and then leave everything else default. If let's say that you are using a different account that has the access and should be able to browse through or read through those Active Directory, this is where you could specify the account too. But I'm gonna leave everything default because I am logged in as sc_admin. That is also a domain admin too. So I'm not gonna worry about anything else. Leave everything as is. Click OK, and you would see it's gonna go to bbtech.com and then grab all of the users from it. Next tab right here that you see is about polling schedule. This is where you could set up different schedules when it should go and rediscover it. Default is 7 days. You could change that schedule if you want to. This tab, by the way, for the remaining two right here, is going to be the same. So I will quickly go very fast on them. I'm not going to describe and talk about it, the schedule on everyone. And also discover the Delta discovery interval minutes. Let's say that if there are any changes that are being made, this is that tab for. So when should it just go and compare whatever it has already? And if there were changes made, when should it go and basically bring the updated data? So Delta discovery, that's what that is about. So just leave that one checked, and 5 minutes is fine. It will only bring the changes only. It will not go and run the full discovery on it. Next tab is Active Directory attributes. So this is basically what kind of data about the user that you want to collect. Like you could see name, user account control. So many, these are the one that Microsoft has enabled by default. It will collect these information from Active Directory about the user. But let's say that if you want to add more, and this is where you could go and add all of the other attributes. So there are tons of them. If you want to know, like all the way to like a manager name, you could see like last, log on, log off, all of those attributes. You could bring the data about them, about each user, into your SCCM database. So this is where you would set if you want to start collecting that data too. So I'm just going to leave everything default. Whenever I would get to the custom reporting, I might come back over here and try to enable a couple of things just to show you guys how you could do some custom reports on it too. But for now, leave everything as default and click apply. Click OK. We're done with the user. So next one is going to be the system. So name kind of says it about the system. It is about the machines. It goes and discover the systems in the Active Directory. This is a very, very powerful feature of managing kind of machines too. If it is, this is kind of a very custom thing. You could implement this discovery from so many different options, so many different ways that you won't believe. So I'll show you one thing in a little bit. So first, what you could do is just click on the new, just like the one we did with the users. And if you click on browse, obviously you have option to get to all the top level. You could also get to only computers OU. And then underneath, if you just wanted to go further and dig deeper and just want it to be just only part of the group of machines that you wanted to bring it in through this discovery method, you could do that too. That's one. For this lab purpose, obviously, I'm just going to get to the top level of the domain so that whatever I put in my lab, they get discovered. So click OK. And just like users discover objects within Active Directory groups, you can check that one. And this is a cool part right here that I was mentioning. Like, let's say that you have group of some very sensitive machines, which every environment that you are going to work have it. And they are usually, or majority of the time, they are referred to, they are exclusion groups. You cannot push anything to them. Don't touch them. Don't do anything. this is one of the best way to do it. Right here, select subcontainer to be excluded from the discovery. So I'm just going to click on add, and let's say it for conversation's sake. I know this is not the right way to say it, but let's say that this was one of the container, one of the group of machines that were under keys, and they were never to be touched by SCCM. You don't want to push anything. You don't want them to even bring it into SCCM. This would be a good way to do. A lot of people just go and create collections, and they just try to do exclusion, but you still wind up pushing certain things to them. I personally think it is better if you go this route, so that if they are not even in your system, you would never have any kind of a need or desire or worry. If you are a manager or team lead, you would never have to worry about somebody's going to make a mistake, and it will break some kind of a very critical machines. Now imagine if you are working for an airline and they use it for dispatching machine, you wind up pushing something to that, all the dispatchers are down. Same thing goes for freight or train companies. Same goes for trade or if it's a financial institution. So that's the method that I personally would use to go, not to even bring those kind of critical machines into SCCM, so that we never touch them. If obviously if they are like, no, don't touch them, don't push anything to them. But sometimes they are in the scope. Those machines are in the scope. You still have to patch them, but in a timely manner or in a controlled timely manner. Then obviously you have to bring them in. But this is one way to control it, by the way. Leave everything default, click OK, and you could see it will go and grab everything in Bibi tech.com. Same thing with the polling schedule. You could change the schedules. I'm gonna leave everything default. And these attributes are about the machine now. In the last case about the user discovery, they were about the user. So this is where you could grab all of the stuff, all the way to asset tag, and you could do very fancy things with it. Whatever basically is on the operating system that you could bring with a PowerShell command or DOS command, you could potentially grab that kind of attribute from it. And it's a really, really good and powerful tool. I strongly do suggest that you should go look for it. Certain things like the ones that are really needed on a regular basis, and you should add them and try to utilize this functionality of SCCM. It's very powerful. The next tab is about the options. It gives you a little bit extra options to configure options to exclude computers from discovery. Only discovered computers that have logged onto a domain. This is actually, somebody had asked me a question in one of the comments, that how can they, or maybe a site on the Facebook, that how can they control if there are some stale records. So this is one way to go about, like if a machine has not logged into the Active Directory for the last 90 days, maybe you could call that machine as it's lost. But obviously there is a process that needs to come, and that needs to be discussed with other groups, how you want to put that tag, when you want that machine not to be included, or it needs to be excluded from the SCCM. This is a very good method to keep the SCCM database clean. Also, if you have enabled this option, this would help you with the compliance report too. Because let's say if there are, for this conversation sake, let's say that you have 100 machines, and out of those 10 never logs in, they are not there. Guess what? Your compliance is always at 90% automatically in that case. This is the method you could use so that all of the active reporting is good. All of the reporting is good and all that kind of stuff. But make sure before you enable this one, just don't go and check it and just say like, okay, it's gonna be good. No, communicate with your manager, have some meetings, discuss so that everybody knows why the number of objects. Because if you just go and enable this and look at the total number of machines in SCCM, and somebody pulls the data on the Active Directory might be showing 50,000, and here you go, you are showing 45,000. Now people are going to start asking you questions. Why? What happened to those 5,000? This is why it's important you talk and you communicate with them, and then implement this. So I have seen companies doing it 90 days, 60 days, and some have done 180 days, depending on who you're dealing with. And same thing, this is about if the machine has checked in, and this is only discovered computers that have updated their computer account password in given period. So this is another way of managing that too. So I'm not going to worry about this option because this is my lab and I know everything is going to be up and running all the time. So I'll just click apply. This is basically end of discovery system, Active Directory system discovery. So just apply, click OK. And sorry, I have to enable this one too. Active Directory system properties. My bad. I think I just got taken away with these talking about the other tabs. So enable it. I need to do the users too. So enable. Just check this mark. Apply. Yes. Okay. And you saw that it did show that warning, the one that you want to run this right now, right away. So same thing. I'm gonna go right click properties. Enable Active Directory user discovery. Apply. You know what? I'm just gonna wait just for a second. I want to show you something. I'm gonna cancel it. I'm gonna leave users as oh, I enabled it, but hopefully I can show you that you are not gonna see any users right now. Yeah, there is nothing here, but once it runs, you should see all of those users start popping up over here. 0. So I'll just go back. I'm gonna kind of right click and run. This is basically, you could force it to force any of the discovery, right click on it and run full discovery now. Yes. And now if I go back, right click, you could refresh it by F5. It just takes just a little bit time for it to bring all the, you could see that the users are starting to pop in right there. So they would automatically, once it runs, system is running in the background, so you would start seeing all of these, all users are going to start popping up here. Right click, and then you could do update membership. This is like forcing it again. And once it completes, as you could see, the little hourglass means it's running. So I'm gonna refresh it by clicking refresh right here. And I think F5 is a shortcut key for refresh it too. If I do this, it's still running. Users. I'm just gonna go back and just click. They're here. User collections. Yeah, here you could see that they are starting to populate right here in this too. And now if I want to create more collections, which I don't want to get into details right now about the collections because I will do a separate video on that one. So this is as you could see, if I go on the devices, now there is another one that starts showing too, which is TXDC01. I do not have any other devices in this lab, and the reason why I don't is because I wanted to show you guys how I'm going to deploy operating system to just through the SCCM, not going and manually going and creating anything. So in the future, one of the future video that would be around the task sequence and deploying of the operating system. I will deploy Windows 10 and Windows 7 too. So that's why I'm just waiting on this one so that I can set up my infrastructure and then start deploying the operating system using the SCCM too. So it's intentional. That's why you guys are seeing only 3 machines for now. And if you look back, there are only 3 machines anyway in this lab. So that's why it's reporting this way. So the last one in the discovery is the groups. Same thing is about the Active Directory groups. So you could just go to the enable, like right click and get the properties, and with the groups enable discovery. And then also if you want to just target groups or locations for this video purpose, I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm just going to discover on a very high domain level, so that I don't have to worry that nothing is being captured. But in the future, since if you look and go back on the very first video that I created, that I would have set up this fictional company in 3 different locations, which is New York, Texas, and California. I would come back again here and I will revisit this area again once I start deploying the operating systems. So for this one, I will just call this group as Texas, just for now, but I will come back to it and then set it up. So just to add something right now, I had created only one group in the AD. So I'm just going to click on browse, and I think it was SCCM admins. That's what I think I had called. Check name, yeah, sorry, SCCM administrators. For now, it's just a filler, so don't worry about it. I'm just going to click OK, apply, yes, and then just leave it as is for now. And whenever I'm going to get to those the groups, the way I will start segregating the machines, then I will create some more groups so that it can discover each group too. That's done. So next is about the boundaries. Boundaries basically are, the reason to define the boundaries is which machine or the user basically is going to communicate to which site. Since there is only one site, at this time, I would add the sites in the future and manipulate the boundaries a little bit more to segregate them. So right now, whenever I enable the forest discovery, there should be one boundary automatically created. So for that, I'm just going to leave it as is, which is, you could see that boundaries it automatically created, which was on the default site. And then in order for the boundaries to work, you must have boundary groups. And the difference between boundaries and boundary groups is basically, boundary is, you could call it a unit, and then collection of boundaries would make the boundary groups. And there is a, which I mentioned earlier, that whenever I did the video about videos about SCCM 2016, I have created a detailed video about boundaries. You might want to watch that one to get a better understanding about the boundaries. But for this lab purpose, there is nothing that needs to happen for now about the boundaries. So I'm just going to leave it as is, basically the default, one default group and one default boundary. So the next is to get the logs. You could just simply go to SCCM log directory, which is C. That's where I have it installed. So wherever you have installed your SCCM, hopefully if you are following along this lab, that you did the same way, the way I did too. So C, program files, Microsoft config manager, logs. And here for each one of the log for system group is adsg this.log, system discovery is this ads this.log. You could see that all of each one, you could see it on the screen. You're going to see 5 here. You're not going to see 6 because I have not even enabled network discovery, so I'm not going to worry about it. If you want to read further details about each log and how these things are set up, and if you want to get a little bit much more deeper detail about it, this is the link that you want to follow, which I would include this one into the description of this video. So this concludes this video, and in the next video I think I'm going to go ahead and create that video about configuring of SCCM client and also how we would deploy it. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and do it now, and hopefully you will like all of those future videos too. I would recommend and I would also request that if you could please leave some comments, like these videos. That would be very helpful for me and my channel. Thank you. Peace.